this evening. The mayor, as you probably heard us talking earlier, he started his treatment yesterday, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. So we're going to follow our agenda tonight, so if you will, please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, and after that, Councilman Diggs will give the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eternal Father, we thank you for all the blessings of this day. Father, we just ask for your guidance tonight in this council meeting, that what we do and say will be acceptable to you, but be beneficial for the people of the town of Edenton. Father, we just pray your mercies upon our mayor. Bless him as he goes through these treatments, him and Peggy Ann and the entire family, and be with them. Through Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Steve. Okay, the first order of business tonight is our public hearing. We're going to have a conditional use and rezoning application for Cheryl Orr, requesting to rezone a property located at 110 and 126 Old Hertford Road from CN neighborhood commercial to conditional use highway. Ms. Orr is planning to open up a new B&B, bed and breakfast at the Cotton Gin Inn. And before we hear from the staff, I ask that anyone who plans to speak on this application, including staff, and anybody who is either for or against it, if you would please stand and be sworn. Okay. Do you swear that the information you present tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Good. Okay. All right, Sam, if you would present the staff report, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening. The request this evening before you is a conditional use rezoning request from Mrs. Cheryl Orr of 110 and 126 Old Hertford Road. She's requesting tonight to rezone her property from neighborhood commercial to conditional use commercial highway. Conditional use rezoning is not something we see all the time, and it's generally applied for at the same time you apply for a conditional use permit. Mrs. Orr has already been before you, but back in March to apply for a conditional use permit, which you all approved to run a bed and breakfast. Now, the reason she's back here tonight is due to a staff error. She has done everything that we have asked of her to get this thing through, but this issue didn't come to light until she applied for a sign permit. We realized that her current zoning classification would not allow her to have the kind of signs that she needs for her business. So bear with me tonight. So again, Mrs. Orr is here tonight to ask for a conditional use rezoning for her bed and breakfast. She already has her conditional use on file to conduct her bed and breakfast business, as well as a special use permit on file to use the venue for weddings, events, and a supper club. So if you're not familiar with the property, this is the W.O. Spate House, which is located at 110 Old Hertford Road, as well as the Old Cotton Gin, which is located at 126 Old Hertford Road. If you're still unfamiliar with it, this is 110 Old Hertford Road, this is 126 Old Hertford Road. The property is bounded by East Church Street or NC Highway 32 to the south. Old Hertford Road runs generally north and south to the west of the property. You have Pelican Vinyl, which is zoned industrial, to the north, as well as residential zone farmland to the east and to the west. Village Creek subdivision is also zoned residential to the south, and it's also located in the vicinity of Colonial Village subdivision to the northwest. Again, the zoning, which you have already seen in her prior public hearing. Again, industrial warehouse for Pelican Vinyl, residential on the three other sides. Future land use map classification. So the subject parcel was identified for low density residential when it was a private home back in 2007. So again, note the industrial and commercial uses nearby. All right, so the analysis of the situation. So again, the request is to rezone the aforementioned parcels from neighborhood commercial to conditional use commercial highway. So again, conditional use rezoning is a tool which allows local government entities to carefully tailor zoning to certain situations. So in this situation, as I said before, the commercial highway zoning classification, the regulations are more Again, the conditional use designation would prevent any other use other than what is already authorized in the conditional use permit from being owned at this, not owned, but used at this parcel. So, again, this all comes back to signage. So with the current conditional use, or with current zoning, Mrs. Orr is only allowed to have two wall signs with a combined maximum surface area of 50 square feet, which is not very big at all. It really constitutes down to two 5 by 5 signs or one 5 by 10 sign, which would be installed directly on her house, on this house. So any sign posted on the house would obviously take away from the historic and aesthetic qualities of this house and property already possesses. So what she's applying for is the initial use rezoning would allow the freestanding sign you see here, which is any sign that would be self-supporting. So this sign she would be able to put this sign closer to the road than her building is already. So as it is now, the bed and breakfast is located 60 feet from Old Hereford Road and 100 feet from East Church Street or NC Highway 32 here. Also in the vicinity, you have to take note is a slight curve in the road. There's also a speed limit change, an intersection here, as well as a body of water on either side. So any time you would take a driver's eye away from the road with that many different things going on, it's going to be a dangerous situation and contrary to the public welfare and health. In addition, it's not practical for us to ask Mrs. Orr to advertise her business with such a small sign so far away from the road, especially in Highway 32, which I'm assuming is going to be the major thoroughfare for which people view her business. So upon the rezoning to conditional use highway commercial, the subject parcels will be subject to all regulations specific to the commercial highway zoning classification to include signage. The applicant would be allowed to install freestanding sign on each street frontage, so that would be one sign on the East Church Street side as well as one sign on the Old Hereford Road side per parcel. For a maximum sign surface area of 80 square feet per sign with a total sign surface area not to exceed 250 square feet per parcel. Each sign will be allowed a height of 15 feet or less. And from what I've reviewed with Ms. Dorr, her requests are significantly less than the maximum she is allowed. So the rezoning request is appropriate given the current land use of the property in relation to the land use of the surrounding parcels along East Church Street. So we have, as I showed before, quite a mix in the surrounding area. Rezoning of this parcel to conditional use commercial highway would allow roadside sign. Will have minimal impact on the surrounding properties. Prior to a decision tonight by the council, I would recommend a discussion regarding whether or not the rezoning advances the general health, safety, and welfare of the community. Also, if approved, your decision tonight must include a statement of consistency with the land use plan. Upon my review, this proposed conditional use rezoning is consistent with the applicable land use classification as defined by the Edenton Future Land Use Map. Of special note as well is at the planning board held on June 6th, this application was unanimously approved. May I answer any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Ms. Orr, do you have anything further that you would like to add to what Sam has told us, or if so, you have the floor.
Well, there are a few things that I'd like to say. The curve in the road is a consideration, and I noticed, I don't know if y'all are aware, but the curve sign, the arrows, has been hit by a car. That's been down for quite some time. And I also wanted to note, some of my neighbors were concerned about the speed on that road, on 32. I know it goes down right before you hit the city limits, and it doesn't seem like anyone is really slowing down at that point. I don't know if we can put some kind of deterrent or something to indicate the speed better, because I know my neighbors across the road have complained quite a bit, and they wanted me to bring something forward concerning about the speed on the road there. It does go down to 25 shortly after that, but it seems like people don't quite slow down.
I think that's NC Dot.
It is, it's DOT, we can talk to them.
Okay.
I know our police officers sit there sometimes, with the radar, but we were certainly,
I don't know if those instruments that show your speed, if those are successful or not. Deterrence speeders, but just a thought. Thank you.
thank you. Council, does anyone have any questions of either Sam or Ms. Orr, either one?
How big are these signs gonna be?
I'd like something similar to the Grand Old Queen, one on each road, just to say have it, and probably have a light come up from the bottom, not illuminated itself, but just a light fixture below it. So I'm saying, I'm looking at probably, 3 foot by 5 foot, maybe 3 by 4, something like that.
Okay.
I just want to say I love old houses and historic properties having a use and an income stream, so I'm all for it. So I'm excited you're doing this.
I don't think the historic tax credits, since it is on the National Historic Registry, would approve of the sign on the building
I
as
don't
well.
think they would either.
Others have any questions or comments from Ms. Orr? Okay, I'll open it forward now for public comment. Anybody has any comment that they want to make? Either for or against? Okay, declare the public hearing closed. So council, what is your pleasure?
Yeah, would you like a motion on this?
We need a motion, yes.
I so move that we make the change from CN to CUCH, conditional use highway.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those for changing this use, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You have all your permits and everything, you can go ahead, and we thank you very much for, that's a beautiful piece of property, and we certainly are glad to have you here to recondition that place and make it beautiful again. Thank you very much.
Please come and look at it and visit it when it's completed.
We'd love to do that.
Invite us out, we'll be there.
Yeah.
Grand opening.
I assume you will probably have a grand opening or
Yes,
or
I'll probably have
something.
a soft opening and a grand opening. I'm hoping Labor Day.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, if the council can also make a motion confirming that this change is consistent with the land use map. I should have included that as
Second.
part of the
Second.
agenda.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? So moved, so carried.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
One of the easiest rezonings in the history of it.
Yeah. Okay, moving forward, we'll have our committee reports at this time. The administrative committee is chaired by Councilman Biggs.
We only have one item on the agenda tonight, the reappointments to the boards and commissions that we talked about during our committee meeting. George Little for a 3-year term to the Board of Adjustments, Chuck Schmueller for a 3-year term to the airport, Linda Thornton, and these are all reappointments, by the way, 4-year term to the Historic Preservation Commission. Lisa Baker, she's filling an unexpired term, so this would be a 4-year term for her to the Historic Preservation Commission. Claire Stage, same thing, 4 years, and Judy Adams to a 3-year to the Planning Board, and also Bob Harden is, again, all these are reappointments to, and Bob's is to the Planning Board. We also, well, we got the letter from Bob today, but as you saw in your packet this weekend, April Lane is also eligible if we would like to reappoint her. I don't know if you heard from her or not, Anne Marie, or,
I have not talked to her because I wasn't sure, because of the confusion on my part about the limits, term limits not
Right.
being part of the tree committee ordinance.
right,
But it is, isn't it?
No,
It's not.
it's not, and I have a feeling that she would welcome the opportunity to serve again, so if you'd like, I'll check with her.
So you can be on the tree committee for life.
It works for me.
It's not a bad thing.
No, depends on
Well, I will put all these names in the form of a motion that we accept them to be reappointed, with, April's, if she so desires to be reappointed, if that's okay with the committee, but I'll put that in form of a motion.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
That's it, that's all we got.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is Public Works Committee, and I've asked Councilman Dixon to take charge of that tonight.
Okay, we have three things on that tonight. The first is recommended that the council award the engineering proposal for the Camel Bulkhead Replacement Grant project as presented. And we've talked about that, I think, extensively, and so I put that in the form of a motion.
No second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Can we have some discussion on
Oh,
it?
would you like to have some
Yeah,
discussion on
just
this?
a little bit.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's fine. I just wanted to know how quick, I don't remember seeing the dates on how quick they were gonna get to this. And it might have been on there and I missed it.
No, we talked to the engineer yesterday, and he hopes to be, if you approve it, we'll call him tomorrow, and he said he would be up here this week to start taking the measurements and getting to work on the actual design. So he's ready to move, and we'll keep prodding him to move quickly.
Tell him tomorrow will be great.
Any
Okay,
further
thank you.
discussion? All those in favor of the motions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Okay, the second thing we've got on, is recommended that the council approve the lease agreement with the Chowan Arts Council as presented and as we talked about. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
And the third thing is it's recommended that the council approve the amendments to the town code pertaining to the tree trimming contract work and placement of solid waste recyclables and yard waste for collection as presented and as we discussed in our committee meetings and as we have seen in our packets. I will put that in the form of a motion.
No second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just wanted to be sure that everyone knows that, as Councilman Dixon said, as in your packet, that I did ask Anne Marie to add one thing to that, which was put your trash in your own yard. And that's pretty much, how she put it. And you know, that it'll be in your yard instead of, you know, putting in your neighbor's yard. So thank you for putting that in there. I appreciate that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
And that's it for the public works committee.
Okay, moving on to our new business, and I'll call on Anne Marie to present the items on the agenda for new business tonight.
Okay, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the first item is a recommendation to award the contract for the construction material and testing services. And you'll recall that at your last meeting, we had received one proposal and we were awaiting a second proposal. And it turns out that the second proposal is more cost-effective for us. We got the architect's clerk of the works or construction inspector to review both proposals. And honestly, he had recommended that we solicit the first contractor. He said, I've done work with them, they're good people. He said, I'm not really familiar with this second group. Well, it turns out the second group's proposal was much better for us, and he pointed that out. And I appreciated the fact that he did that when he clearly had a good relationship with the first contractor. And we authorized, separate from the agreement, some testing last week, and we got the reports, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with the descriptions, the notes that were made of the conditions, the work that was done. So I think we're going to be in good hands with the contractor, and we've worked out a system where A.R. Chesson the contractor has to notify us when he thinks it's necessary for this testing company to be called. The architect said that sometimes the contractors become overly reliant on the third-party testers, and they tend to call them at times when it may not be necessary, and that would cost the town money. So we've set up a good system where we're gonna really keep a tight watch on that. So based on all that, it's our recommendation that you award the contract for construction material and testing services to ESC as presented in your packet.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to proceed with that?
motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, any discussion? I'm new at this, guys.
You do great.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the next item is an agreement that would allow the town to participate in a joint purchasing agreement for the purchase of utility materials, supplies, and equipment. And this is an agreement that you've participated in before. It's a benefit or a service that Electricities provides for all of its members. If you agree to allow us to be part of the bid, Electricities will work up the bid specifications, and actually Rocky Mount, the city of Rocky Mount, acts as the conduit. They would actually solicit the bids, and their council would award the contract based on agreements from all of us to purchase the materials, but we're not bound. We don't have to say that we're gonna buy a specific number or a specific quantity, but it gives us the right to be able to purchase and buy. All of us collectively, excuse me, you know, bundling our purchases, we're gonna get a better price. So Bud Powell, our purchasing agent, stays on top of all of this, and the agreement is due to expire, and it's really important that we have an agreement in place, because if, heaven forbid, we have any damage with a hurricane or a storm, the first thing FEMA looks for when they come back to see if we're eligible for reimbursement is to make sure that we've procured all of our purchases properly, and this is a big part of that procurement process. So we would ask that the council approve the town being part of the member cooperative bid agreement for joint purchasing of utility services.
I move that we do that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this. Do we have any discussion?
I don't see a
I
downside.
think
Yeah.
it's a very good program.
Save money, save money.
That's right. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
All right, the last item, and we're really excited, the timing worked out just great. We got an email late on Friday, and we were able to still have time to place it on your agenda, but we received, excuse me, notice from the Division of Aviation that our request for a grant agreement for funds to, excuse me, pay for the design and engineering of the new fuel farm system at the airport have been approved. And if you all will approve the execution of this agreement, we'll turn around and send it back, and we can have the rest of the grant paperwork processed in a timely manner. The grant is for, I believe it was $65,000. I'm sorry, it's less than that. About $61,000. The town has to contribute about $5,600 for that. So we'll technically get about a $55,000 grant. We have to have a 10% match. Councilman Biggs knows, excuse me, my allergies, that the Airport Commission has been working really hard trying to get this project approved, and thanks to a lot of work from a lot of people behind the scenes, and paperwork finally arrived. So we hope that you'll authorize execution of the agreement.
Any discussion on this?
I'll put it in a motion.
I was gonna give you that opportunity. I figured you wanted to do that.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this, fuel system design. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Good. Okay, moving forward, we've reached a point in our meeting where we have items that's considered timely and important. And we'll ask any of you if you have anything that you need to bring before us tonight and talk about.
I got one thing that, when we were at the groundbreaking for the police department, I think it was brought up about 3 times about liquidated damages that I happened to bring up. And everybody kept saying, on time, on time, on time. I just want to let y'all know, I ran into Mr. Chesson at a meeting, and we talked about liquidated damages. And I told him that my concern was for the town of Edenton, that there was not enough money in there to cover the interest, the whole works. But anyhow, we had a really good chat. But in doing so, I brought to his attention, he was asking me why it came up, and I told him about what happened in Hertford County. But I also said, you know, Al, you and I have been friends a long time. I've recommended him several times to build buildings. I know he's a good contractor. I said, but even the building that you were working on for us, for SMA, was somewhat delayed, quite a bit delayed. Well, I didn't know this, but one reason is Mr. Chesson hadn't been paid $80-some thousand that he is owed. So I wanted to find out, is that owed by us or is that owed by SMA?
No, sir. SMA had their own contract with A.R. Chesson. We paid A.R., we had our own contract with A.R. Chesson.
It is from SMA, however.
It is.
For our work.
Yeah.
For our work, but that was for grants that we received and for work that we were responsible for.
Yeah.
And SMA has, had conversations with Mr. Chesson, has promised that they were gonna honor that, payment. As of, I guess last week it had still not been honored, but the leadership is, they keep telling us that as soon as they get the confirmation of the technology being tested and verified, that they're ready to roll, and there'll be more money coming from the investors to pay their obligations and honor their commitments that were made to us.
In honoring their commitments, are they saying that they're still coming here?
Yes.
And they're still gonna create the jobs, because the clock's ticking on creating the jobs, and guys and gals, we're stuck with that money. We gotta pay it back if, in fact, they don't, create the jobs. I mean, it's our note then. And our note was gonna be, our percentage of this was free rent for a few years, but we're gonna have to pay the whole note back. So, I don't know how much longer they've got, but it can't be but so much longer that we really need to, we need to have our attorney making sure we're staying on this to make sure we don't get hung with this money.
As I understand it, they had a lot of internal problems with their board and this type of thing, but the last I heard, they had gotten that back on even keel and back on schedule.
Well, I think the mayor reported, and I'm not sure how long ago, what conversations where he had,
He had several
where the
conversations.
leadership team that we had been working with was no longer in leadership. They're still members, they're still stockholders, but they're not in leadership positions. And the new leadership is in place, and before they were willing to do another round of funding, they wanted to verify that the software worked the way that it was expected to work.
What is the total amount that we would be on the hook for?
The building reuse grant, off the top of my, I'm just trying to remember if it was, well, 80, it was about 150,000, I think, for the building reuse grant. then the town received a grant from Golden Leaf for the elevator for $120,000. But I don't believe that it's the same type of clawback provision that
We wouldn't have to pay that
building
back, I don't think.
reuse has.
Don't they have their intellectual property up as their backup for this?
Um,
Actually, the patents,
The patents have value, I mean, that's why
that's
they're,
what I'm talking about. That's the intellectual, that's what they have. That is their intellectual
That's-
property.
that's
And-
what they're trying to protect and,
But if they don't pay, they lose those properties, as I understood it. And that's everything that company is.
Well, I'm sure that they've had to sign notes and this type of thing, so.
we have, promissory notes with them.
Yeah, but the promissory note is different from that.
It really is.
They, as I understood it, and why, I was in agreement with it, was that the intellectual property, that the patents on that was the, collateral. And I can't imagine them walking away with that. I mean, that's the end of the company.
Well, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I hope they come. I hope
Oh, I
things,
do
I
too.
hope it pops soon,
Yeah,
sooner than we think.
we all do.
But I just want y'all to know that we need to be thinking about this, and to some degree, we might need to be looking for another company to go in there just in case, so that we can, at least explain to Department of Commerce, hey, we did create some jobs, that will help offset this. Just in case. We can't make a promise to anyone else till their time's up, and I understand that, but it'd be nice to have somebody
Backup.
else on the line.
Be hard.
It will be hard. That's all I got. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have anything they have a burning desire to talk about? Okay, we'll open it up to the general public, if anybody out there has anything they want to discuss. Okay. Okay, well, that concludes our business tonight, and we'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Adjourn.
Good job.